Okay, we're going to pick up where we left off on chapter 6. So you're the one who's been causing all the fuss. The Whangdoodle stared at the professor. In all my years, I don't think I have ever come across such a persistent, persevering man. You've been a nuisance, but you are welcome. The professor gazed rapturously at the Whangdoodle, and then he sank to his knees. Your Majesty, this is a tremendous pleasure. Yes, well, get up. There is much to talk about. You want some wodge? No, thank you, sire. You have 3 staunch supporters, I must say. The Whangdoodle waved a hoof towards Ben and Tom and Lindy. You trained them very well. But for them, you might not be here. And vice versa, Tom interrupted loyally. The professor smiled. I consider myself a lucky man in every respect. The Whangdoodle bounced in his chair. Yes. I am glad you crossed the bridge. I look forward to some splendid talks. I cannot tell you how much I've missed the stimulus of human company. Later we will celebrate. But now I have a favor to ask of you. A great favor. I will do anything, Your Majesty, the professor said, smiling. Splendid. The children have been telling me about your wonderful discovery concerning the secret of life. Oh, have they? The professor looked at them in bewilderment. They know very little about it, sire. Well, no matter. The point is, I want you to make me another Whangdoodle. I beg your pardon? That's the favor I want. I want you to make a Whangdoodle for me. Now I know you're saying to yourself, what kind of Whangdoodle? Well, obviously I want a female Whangdoodle. The Whangdoodle jumped up and paced about the room, changing color rapidly. You see, it's been so quiet and lonely here all these years. Then 4 human beings arrive on my doorstep, which is sensational enough. And then I learned that you are a professor with an incredible discovery, and I suddenly realized that all my dreams might possibly come true. He paused in front of the professor. I would have a family, and I wouldn't be extinct. I would never be lonely again. You do understand how desperately important this is to me, don't you? Oh, sire. The professor lifted a hand to his brow. I'm afraid there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I would give anything to be able to grant your wish and make you a Whangdoodle, but it is impossible. I would not know how to begin. Tom said, But you told us the secret of life had been discovered, Professor. Yes, you did, lisped the Whangdoodle emphatically. But discovering the secret of life and being able to make it work are 2 entirely different things. It will be a long time before man is ready to take the next tremendous step. Well, be the first. Start a fashion. The Whangdoodle waved his arms excitedly. Lindy ran to the professor. I remember you said that in a very little while people like you would be able to make life. There you are, cried the Whangdoodle triumphantly. If you said that, you must have a great deal of knowledge. Go on, Professor. I bet you could do it, encouraged Ben. No, listen to me, the professor pleaded. They all started to speak to him at once. The noise was deafening. Just a minute, shouted the Whangdoodle. He stamped his foot and winced with pain. He turned to the professor and said, I want some questions answered. A simple yes or no will suffice. You admit that the secret of life has been discovered? Yes, Your Majesty. If it has been discovered, I assume you know what makes life. Yes, Your Majesty, but if you know what makes it, you know how to make it. Well, listen to me. There must have been a number of experiments. Yes, sire, there are many things being tried. There's something called cloning, and then there is microdissection and implantation. Have you been present at these experiments? Most of them, Your Majesty. We've had some amazing success with frogs. The Whangdoodle glowed pink with delight. Well then, this is all very clear to me. I don't see what all the fuss is about. If you have been smart enough to find the secret of life, and it works on a frog, for heaven's sake, why not a Whangdoodle? I'm a willing subject for research. All you have to do is get your thinking organized, and I am certain that you will come up with a solution. The professor gave an exasperated sigh. Your Majesty, how can I convince you that you're asking for the impossible? I hate to disappoint you, but the work in genetics is really just beginning. I devoted most of my life to research, and yet I only have a few answers. How could I possibly know enough to create a Whangdoodle? The Whangdoodle stared at the professor and slowly turned a very pale blue. He looked terribly dejected and slumped back on his throne. After a moment he said, Bother. That is very sad. I had such high hopes. I was so certain that your presence here meant that something special was going to happen. I must have been wrong. It's too disappointing for words. The Proc said gently, Your Majesty. No, no, the Whangdoodle held up a hoof. I'd rather not discuss it any more. I think I'd like to be by myself for a while. He got up and walked towards the tapestry. As he did so, he began to disappear until only his eyes and antlers remained. Eventually, they also vanished. His voice was the last thing to go. It's really depressing. I never wanted anything so much in my whole life. Silly of me to suppose it might be possible. A large shiny tear rolled down the tapestry. There was a long silence in the room after he had gone. Lindy said, That's awful, Professor. He was crying. What a shame, Tom said with feeling. I wish we could have done something. I cannot make a Whangdoodle, the professor stated. The Proc cleared his throat. He spoke slowly and was obviously having difficulty in saying what he felt. Couldn't you just try? His Majesty wants another Whangdoodle more than anything else in the world. You know how he feels. You wanted to get to Whangdoodle Land more than anything in the world. The king was gracious enough to meet with you. Won't you return the favor and try this for him? The children had never heard the Proc speak with such feeling. The professor shut his eyes. I would love to help, but I don't like to see the Whangdoodle upset any more than you do, but I can't see how it's possible. Lindy interrupted. You know what, Professor? Ever since we met, you've been saying to us, You can, you can, you can. But lately all I've heard is, I can't, I can't, I can't. Ben said quickly, You once said that whatever man can imagine, he can do. Lindy clapped her hands. You said that you couldn't cross the bridge, but you did. Oh, Professor, cried Tom, give it a chance. How do you know you can't make a Whangdoodle until you've tried? The children clustered around him. The Proc said, Professor, I know you're a man of great strength. When you choose to believe in something, you are unshakable. Won't you believe now that this experiment is possible? The professor looked at the four of them, 4 pairs of eyes staring at him, unblinking, waiting for his reply. He mumbled, I would need equipment. It's liable to take a long time. Tell me what you need, said the Proc. I will see that you get it. The professor held his forehead in concentration. I would need a dissecting microscope, possibly a laser beam, ultrafine dissecting equipment, saline solution, flasks, culture tubes. His words were drowned by the cheer that came from the children. They danced around the professor, hugging him, patting him, kissing him, laughing with happiness. Even the Proc smiled broadly. That is the end of chapter 6. To be continued.